One day you look in the mirror. The face looking back is familiar, but the man inside it isn't there anymore. You got the promotion. Your bank account is fatter than ever. People look at you with respect. But something is missing, and you can't even name what it is. Most people call this the price of success. They think it's just fatigue, something that will pass. But the truth is a lot more uncomfortable than that. You are lost, and nobody ever told you the exact moment you got lost. 2,500 years ago, a general wrote that a war can be lost not only to the enemy outside, but to an army that quietly wears itself down from within. His name was Sun Tzu, and The Art of War was never just a book about defeating an enemy. It was a book about how a victory bought with self-destruction is, in the end, no victory at all. Today we're going to apply his logic not to you, but to the one person who has been at war with you this whole time. That person is you. Sun Tzu's most famous teaching is simple. Whoever goes into battle without knowing himself is at risk in every single fight. An ambitious person always turns that sentence outward. He studies his rivals, he reads the market, he maps out everyone else's weak points. But he never once looks at himself, because looking inward means stopping, and for an ambitious mind, stopping feels like the closest thing to defeat. So he keeps running, from one goal to the next, from one peak to the next. Every single time, he feels certain that the next big thing will finally complete him. But it never does, because what he's chasing was never really a goal to begin with. It was an escape. Stop here for a second and sit with that. Sun Tzu warned that an army should never chase an enemy all the way to the wall, because a cornered enemy, one with nothing left to lose, becomes the most dangerous thing in the world. So who does the ambitious man corner like that? Himself. Every time he says, it's not enough, every time he says, I need more, he turns another piece of his inner world into a battlefront. He treats rest as weakness. He treats contentment as laziness. He treats time with the people he loves as a loss on the ledger. And slowly, without realizing it, he starts occupying his own soul like enemy territory. So where does this occupation actually start? According to Sun Tzu, before a general enters battle, he has to weigh 5 fundamental factors: the way, the weather, the terrain, the command, and discipline. Leave out even one, and victory itself can turn into disaster. The ambitious man only pays attention to one of these: command, willpower, discipline, drive. He ignores the rest. He never accounts for his own terrain, the real conditions he's actually standing on, the limits of his body, the needs of his relationships, how much his mind can actually carry. He ignores the weather, which is really just time itself, the seasons, the natural rhythm of a life. He treats every single season like it's harvest time. And one day he realizes he won the war, but there's nothing left in his hands worth defending. A stranger sitting at the family table, a victory with no one to share it with, a man who no longer recognizes his own voice. Sun Tzu was very clear about this. A war that drags on too long rots even the strongest army from the inside. Weapons don't rust, souls do. From the outside, this defeat is invisible. The stage still looks like it's covered in victory. But backstage, the general has been losing his own soldiers one by one, his patience, his warmth, his curiosity, his laughter. At the center of Sun Tzu's strategy sits one idea: deception. To him, every war is an art of misdirection. Look weak when you're strong. Look far away when you're close. The ambitious man masters this art too, with one difference. The enemy he's deceiving is no longer out there. He deceives himself. The night he misses dinner again, he tells himself, just let me finish this one project. The next month, he says the exact same sentence. Then, the year after that. The day he misses his kid's school recital, he tells himself, I'm doing this for their future. And he believes that sentence so completely that he stops asking whose future he's actually talking about. His wife sitting across the table doesn't even bother asking, will you be home early tonight anymore, because she already knows the answer. And that silence lands on him as heavy as any shouting match ever could. Sun Tzu said the most dangerous enemy is usually the one you can't see, and right here, the most invisible enemy of all is standing inside the mirror. He has opened up so many fronts of lies against himself that he can no longer tell which one, if any, is true. Eventually, the truth catches up with him, usually in a hospital hallway, or an empty house, or at the end of a phone call, right after a voice says, "We don't really have anything left to talk about." That's when he understands. Every war he ever won only pushed the road home one step further away. Here's the hardest part of all this. Nobody forced you into this war. You were your own general. You gave the order yourself. And what was actually driving it was never ambition. It was fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of looking back one day and seeing a wasted life. Sun Tzu said a general should never enter battle out of anger, because decisions made in anger are shaped by reaction, not clarity. Ambition that runs on fear falls into the exact same trap. It isn't moving toward a real target. It's just trying to outrun pain. And while you're running from pain, you end up burning your own ground without even noticing. This is why so many people who finally reach the summit feel nothing but emptiness up there, because the mountain was never the real goal. It was just an excuse to keep running from what they were afraid of. So where does real power actually live? Here's where Sun Tzu's deepest teaching shows up. The greatest victory is the one won without ever fighting. That doesn't mean passivity. It's the opposite. It's the deepest kind of strategic maturity there is. A person who actually knows himself, who knows his limits, who can tell which battles are genuinely worth fighting, stops fighting everything. He only chooses the front that actually matters. And everything else, the need to prove himself, everyone else's approval, the race that never ends, he quietly sets down. That putting down is not defeat. It's the moment a general finally recognizes his own army and starts protecting it instead of spending it. Maybe right now you're realizing your own life has turned into a battlefield. Maybe you're seeing that every victory you've won over the years actually stole something from inside you. Seeing that isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of courage Sun Tzu ever described, the courage to question your own strategy. Because a real general isn't broken by losing. He's broken the day he wins a war and never stops to ask what it actually meant. Maybe up until now, every victory was just a step toward the next one. You never once stopped to ask what you left behind to get here, but you're asking now, and that question is, in fact, the bravest front you've ever opened. Sun Tzu taught that the final purpose of war was never destruction. It was peace. You conquer a territory not to burn it down, but to build peace on it. And without building that peace inside yourself first, it doesn't matter how much territory you conquer out there. All you'll have left is ashes. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Maybe the last territory you have left to conquer is the one you've never once set foot on, your own peace.